Passion fatigue is not a sign of failure, but an opportunity for you to be intentional with renewal and reinvention. Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Welcome to another episode of The PA is In, the podcast dedicated to helping physician associates redefine success and achieve harmony in work and in life. I'm your host, Tracy Bingaman, and today we're discussing something that I'm a little hesitant to share about in this setting. Putting things on the internet is strange, and once you put them out there, you can never get them back. Today's episode is about compassion fatigue. It's something that I felt intermittently over the years while working in medicine and also on this platform, showing up and teaching about things like burnout, boundaries, negotiation, work-life integration, personal finances, and more. Have you ever opened a CT, MRI, or X-ray and felt a wave of self-doubt? You're not alone. Whether you're a new grad or stepping into a new specialty, reading imaging can be one of the most intimidating parts of clinical practice. That's where Guardian Light CME comes in. This interactive, case-based tool helps you to sharpen your imaging skills and earn CME while you do it. Start now at zaronlabs.com/guardianlight and use the code TRACY10 for 10% off. You'll review real-world cases with clinical context, scroll through the actual imaging just like when you review imaging at work, and here's the best part, test your eye by toggling key findings on and off to see if you can catch them on your own first. You'll find real imaging impressions, clear teaching points, one-click CME certificates, and new cases sent directly to your inbox each and every week. You get to see it, know it, and catch it before it matters most in real life. Are you ready to gain clinical confidence and read images with ease? Head to zaronlabs.com/guardianlight. That's ZAURON labs.com/guardianlight, LITE, with the code TRACY10 for your discount. How do I know that I'm nervous about talking about this? Today, I'm time blocking and I'm recording a handful of podcast episodes for this show. This is the episode that I put off until last. In fact, I dragged my feet so much that it got pushed to another day of recording. It's the episode and the topic that gives me some extra butterflies in my stomach. But here's the thing. I am personally experiencing some compassion fatigue. I have felt more fatigued with feeling deeply for others, with holding space for patients and even colleagues and clients. This is something that for me, I think likely for most of us working in healthcare, waxes and wanes throughout our careers. If you haven't encountered this before, consider yourself fortunate. But the truth is, I'm struggling with it right now. And if we're truly honest with ourselves and others, it's something that as healthcare providers, we experience from time to time. This isn't something new for me. I've hit this point several times over the course of my career. Sometimes the compassion fatigue that I experience is severe, and sometimes it's more mild, but this time feels a little different somehow. In this episode, I'm sharing what I'm going through when it comes to compassion fatigue, how I got to this place, and probably most importantly, what I'm doing to point myself down the path of healing. If you're in healthcare, you're likely to face compassion fatigue at some point along the way. So let's talk about what it is, how to recognize it, and even some simple strategies to manage it. This time around, my experience with compassion fatigue feels different. Honestly, at the beginning of this bout of compassion fatigue, I thought it was burnout returning. I have a burnout barometer that is probably set to be tripped earlier than average. Unlike previous instances where, coupled with burnout, my compassion fatigue stemmed from things like overwork, this time it's less from overwork and more from what I would deem emotional exhaustion from constant caregiving. I'm not exactly sure that caregiving is the exact right word, but rather that sensation of the outpouring, the serving, the giving, the sharing with others. Despite having built some strong boundaries in my work at the office and with the creation of the show and the running of my business, I have realized that I'm experiencing compassion fatigue. And that led me to this episode and to explore the roots of why I'm feeling this way a little bit deeper. Truly, I do feel that my boundaries are the strongest that they've ever been, but that doesn't mean that the different aspects of my life exist in completely different spaces or that I can turn off thoughts, concerns, and worries about one aspect of work or life when I step into a different role. It stems from this continuous emotional demand of patient care, coupled with my desire to care beyond the professional sphere and also have compassion for my family, my patients, my friends, and last but certainly not least, compassion for myself. It can feel so overwhelming to exist and work inside a system like the healthcare system that we have in America right now. The need for advocacy and change can feel oppressive to those who are boots on the ground, taking care of patients day in and day out. Compassion fatigue is one of these things that can sap the joy and fulfillment right out of a career in medicine, leaving you feeling drained and disheartened. By recognizing and addressing it, you can reclaim your well being and continue to provide compassionate care to your patients. This episode is a reminder that taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of others. Before we launch into what I'm doing about this feeling, let's get the definition of compassion fatigue straight. Compassion fatigue is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that can occur when we're exposed to the chronic stress and the suffering of others. That sounds an awful lot like what it just feels like working in healthcare, right? While medicine might be our calling, compassion fatigue isn't something that we simply need to accept. I want you to come along on this journey of understanding what it's like to feel like you're running on empty and still showing up and taking care of patients, and what steps you can take to heal yourself along the way. I would say that for me, it's been this relative waxing and waning of compassion and sort of the amount of compassion that I feel I have to give to others over time. Sometimes it's big swings when I feel my compassion fuel gauge is on empty for a prolonged time, or it can be these subtle shifts that vary day to day on how I'm feeling when it comes to taking care of others. It's not like it's headed all the way to zero or linear in its descent when I think about how much compassion I have to give to others. I want to normalize that some days we have more patience for patients and more passion and more compassion, and that some days it's normal to have less. When I was 16, my mom asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. My sister had recently been accepted into college where she was pursuing her degree in pharmacy. So, of course, I said that I wanted to be a pharmacist. Turns out that that wasn't actually the career for me, but in the process of job shadowing, I was able to shadow PAs in the ER and ads and in primary care. In fact, in my own primary care clinic where I used to be a patient. So, as part of a school project, coupled with my mom's insistent that I shadow and get an idea for what PAs do before pursuing PA programs and applying to those programs, I headed into the ER where I shadowed an emergency medicine PA named Greg. Greg and I took care of a patient that day, my first day ever in an emergency department, an elderly gentleman on Coumadin who had slipped and fallen in the shower. He cut his foot on the metal rack of the glass shower, and his laceration required sutures. and I was permitted to do most the menial of tasks to help throw suture onto the mayo while Greg was stitching up this patient's laceration between his toes. At the time, I was so excited. I was so engaged. I felt so excited, but also so much compassion for the patient and passion about medicine in general that I could tell you so many details about that specific case. The man's concerns about his wife and his ability to continue to care for her at home as his foot was healing. His wife had Alzheimer's and couldn't be left alone for long stretches of time without supervision. He was anxious to get out of the ER and drive himself home to make sure that she was okay. That encounter, when I was a teenager more than 20 years ago, just as I was deciding to be a PA, was, I think, probably the peak of my compassion. It hadn't seeped away. I hadn't yet witnessed the suffering of patients and how the system wasn't serving them. I didn't yet realize the amount of red tape and documentation and the healthcare disparities that exist inside of our system. I hadn't yet been beaten down by unreasonable expectations, by exhausting patient encounters, and the never ending tasks of charting visits in a society that loves to sue each other. There have been periods of upswing and downswing in my compassion in the 20 years since that day in the ER, helping to repair that laceration. And that is normal. I think that just like burnout exists on a spectrum, feeling a fatigue in the compassion that we feel for others and the passion that we feel for medicine is a normal part of working in healthcare. Compassion fatigue is characterized by this gradual lessening of compassion over time, often resulting from the cumulative stress of caring for patients and also just the realities of working inside of a healthcare system that we are litigious and documentation heavy. So, we're going to launch into some tools for navigating compassion fatigue. Are you feeling stuck, burned out, or craving a little more flexibility and financial freedom? You're not alone. So many clinicians feel trapped in the grind, overworked, underpaid, and unsure how to pivot. But here's the truth: your skills are valuable beyond the clinic. That's why I created the 48 Side Gig Ideas for Healthcare Providers guide, a free PDF packed with practical, creative, and immediately cash-generating ideas that you can start right now. From telehealth to medical writing and patient advocacy to app development, and even a little note on podcasting, these things aren't fluff. These are real, proven opportunities that other providers are already doing. You don't have to figure it out alone. This guide will help you explore new passions, learn how to make extra money, and make the first step towards multiple income streams and building the life and career you actually want. Download your free copy today at tracybingaman.com/gig or click the link in the show notes and start creating financial freedom and cash flow flexibility on your own terms. Because you, my friend, are more than just your clinical job, and taking the first step to generating alternative revenue streams is waiting for you inside the Side Gig Guide. Find it now in the show notes. So far, this episode might have made you feel both depressed and compassion fatigue. So you're probably wondering what I'm doing about these feelings of compassion fatigue, but maybe you're curious what you can do if you're experiencing something similar. Here's a few of the ways that I'm managing these feelings while making an effort to lean into the emotions that I'm experiencing, which, if you've been around for any period of time, you will know is not my strength. So, first up, being mindful of my feelings. Recently, I've been making an effort to pay closer attention to how I'm feeling and sitting with those emotions rather than rushing through them. I will admit that I don't love this process, but learning to name and experience my feelings is something that I'm working on. This mindfulness and intentional presence has been an eye-opening experiment and experience for me. I've been working with one of my coaches, Kate Johnston, who focuses on weight loss for women in healthcare, who has really pushed me into making this sitting with your emotions, naming your emotion, letting your emotion go become a habit. Sometimes she'll ask me, "What were you feeling in that moment?" And I'll have to name that feeling. And then she'll go deeper and ask me where in my body I felt that feeling and what the feeling feels like in a particular part of my body. Then we move on to some strategies, letting that specific feeling go. The entire process, which I call the emotion thingy, which is not its official name in any capacity, was really uncomfortable for me at first. In fact, it's making me uncomfortable to think about how uncomfortable it made me at first. It's still something that I'm working on, but I've gotten more comfortable over time with mindfulness around my own emotions and identifying them. This has been super helpful to me in terms of managing my emotions at work and in life and in interactions with my family. Increased awareness of these things is a huge improvement for me, someone who, before working with Kate, before starting to work on some of these things, couldn't name a whole lot of emotions, let alone tell you where I felt it or have any strategies to sort of move through that emotion. Number two, embracing hobbies. I'm making an effort to lean into what's lighting me up right now. Things like triathlon training, reading books for pleasure, ski season just started, and getting to bed on time, which I guess going to bed on time does not count as a hobby. Although sleeping, I would like to name sleeping as one of my top favorite hobbies. I guess um, I guess this is more of a habit, but less TV and a more prompt bedtime, um, which is pretty much exactly what I thought middle-aged life would feel like. Having things that I enjoy regularly helps me to decompress. If you're curious to learn more about what's bringing me joy outside of work and running this business and recording this podcast, check out episode 267, where I talk about some of these things, leaning into hobbies and what I'm doing outside of work and outside of business. Number three, leaning into friendships. Talking to friends who understand the experience of compassion fatigue has been invaluable. One of the statistics I share in my burnout lecture for graduating PA students is that one of the risk factors for burnout is having a partner or a spouse who doesn't work in healthcare. Now, before you run off and find a new spouse or partner who does work in healthcare, let me suggest just leaning into friendships with people who also get it. The data tells us that surrounding ourselves with others who have had similar experiences, who speak our language, who work in healthcare, and who understand what it's like to be living and working in the trenches of clinical medicine helps us to feel less alone. Whether that's classmates from your undergraduate or PA education, colleagues, or even friends outside of medicine, sharing the feelings that you're experiencing has many benefits. Connecting with others forms a bond, and it also helps you to normalize this compassion fatigue and the waxing and waning of passion and compassion alike. Good days and bad days happen. And this show, I hope, encourages you that when you click on a topic that you are not the only one experiencing it, but caring for others, connecting with others is a resource that needs to be renewed. And connecting with friends can be a great way to fill your own cup so that you can pour out and take care of others. Number four, taking more breaks. Taking breaks and integrating more space, blank space, and time between activities and obligations. I like to call this margin. We all need a little space and time in our lives in order to recharge our batteries and refuel on compassion. I want that time to rest and to see if that gives my compassion some of the space and room to grow and rekindle. I've taken to blocking some time on my calendar to do whatever I need to do on that day. And this does sometimes include asking for help with others for specific responsibilities that have historically been your job to free up some of your time. Also, I say this with love, take your damn PTO. This is a drum that I will never tire of banging. somewhere around 50% of the paid time off in America goes unused. If you've been saving that PTO for a rainy day, pick a few days or shifts and request time off in the future. Trust me, taking that PTO is a gift to your future self to use that paid time off. And it doesn't have to be for vacation or travel or taking yourself or your kids to the dentist. Also, this is sort of a tangent, but a while back I heard someone say that instead of requesting time off, I'll now be notifying work of the days and times that I'm unavailable and taking that paid time off. Yes, I know that you have to work within the confines of your system, but also that shift in mindset can help you to remember that it's your time to take and you deserve to be paid not to work and to do something that you deeply enjoy. Pair that with the fact that breaks, time off, and breathing room in your schedule mean that you can return to your patients with more compassion. And that's what I like to call a win-win. Number 5, breaking the cycle of scrolling. Yes, I know that there is something so mindless, mind numbing, and strangely soothing about scrolling on your phone. Pick the app that you know is the biggest time suck for you. If you don't know which one that is, check your screen time numbers and see if you can be intentional about spending less time on that app. I'm about to tell you how I've been diligent about scrolling less, but before that, I'm going to tell you about a video I saw while scrolling on Instagram. I was watching reels instead of reading on my book, and I had fallen into that mind numbing dopamine loop, sort of that dopamine hit loving space where time ceases to exist. And this video popped up, and it's this youngest guy standing in a yard of green grass holding a red flag and saying, "This is an Instagram checkpoint. This video isn't meant to entertain or inform. Its sole purpose is to check in with yourself and see if you want to stop scrolling now or keep going. Either way is fine, but proceed with purpose or shut down with intention." And the video totally worked. It snapped me out of my reverie, and I went and plugged my phone in the kitchen, and I started my bedtime routine. That being said, I have been making an effort to leave my phone behind more often and even to just notice when I'm scrolling out of boredom or distraction. I try to plug my phone in the kitchen next to the bananas between 5 and bedtime, which is sort of the meat and potatoes of family life, like dinner and taking kids to sports. I will take my phone if we're going somewhere, but then I'm not on it. Um, I have tried to get in the habit of sort of forgetting my phone places or having it out of sight so that I'm more focused on the things that are right in front of me. So, whether it's using that would be scrolling time to be more productive at work and doing notes between patients and spending less time on my phone, or when I'm at home reaching for my book instead, I have never once scrolled my phone and afterwards felt like it was an energizing, productive, useful use of my time. And it may not be scrolling for you, but if you can identify the activities that suck the energy out of your day or week and tone them down, or be more intentional about doing them less, or even just giving them some constraints and saying, hey, I know that this isn't a productive thing. I enjoy it, but I'm going to give it some guardrails so it stays contained and it doesn't sort of spread out and take over my entire life. That can be super helpful as well. My last strategy is taking my foot off the gas on producing content. I have taken breaks from content creation in order to give myself some time to rest and to figure out how I want to show up online. You may have noticed that I'm spending more time on LinkedIn and less time on Instagram simply because that feels more aligned with the way that I want to show up in the world right now. If you aren't connected or following me on LinkedIn, head to LinkedIn and search Tracy Bingaman. You can also follow the PA is in as a company and give us a follow or request a connection. And if you aren't a content creator, right, if you're simply a clinician who's listening to this podcast, think about what you feel pressured, whether it's real pressure or pressure that you've manufactured yourself to contribute, give, create, or produce. Is it something that you actually have to do, or something that you're simply in the habit of doing and you have made to be the baseline expectation for yourself? Think about your schedule, habits, and processes. Are there things that you are doing simply because you've always done them? And do you need to do them anymore? Whether at home or at work, if you can identify tasks that aren't necessary anymore or simply don't need to be done specifically by you, you may feel your compassion reservoir start to fill back up. As I navigate through this period of compassion fatigue, I've come to realize that it's a pivotal phase leading to growth and transformation. From identifying the fact that your compassion fatigue exists to taking big steps or making small changes to create change in your energy level and compassion. This compassion fatigue is not a sign of failure, but an opportunity for you to be intentional with renewal and reinvention. Feeling fatigued and exhausted by, for me, things like content creation and running this business and also working in clinical medicine, it doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. And if you're stubbing your toe on specific feelings or hangups at work or at home, the same is true for you. It doesn't make you weak, failing, or a failure. It means that you're just like the rest of us, humans who work in healthcare. I'm leaning into these tools. I'm exploring my curiosities. I'm trying to prioritize rest through this process. And I can't wait to see what comes out of this season. Yes, I know that this wasn't a specific step-by-step path to forever cure your compassion fatigue, but just like healing from burnout, identifying the source and the factors that are influencing your compassion fatigue isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. There isn't a magic pill or a magic bullet to make it all better, and so that you never ever feel this way again. But simply by being aware of compassion fatigue, you can be on the lookout and be proactive in your approach, and you can be diligent about guarding your heart and your emotions against things that continuously suck the compassion out of you and out of your life and out of your work. That's it for today's episode of The PA is In. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your colleagues and subscribe to the podcast for more insights on achieving balance and cultivating your own definition of success. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. In fact, if you've been feeling this compassion fatigue, or you think one of your colleagues has, maybe send them this episode and use it to start a conversation where you can connect with them and know that you truly are not alone in feeling this way. That's all for today. This PA is out. Congratulations, you've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.